What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Quality Talks podcast. You're joining me for another bite-sized episode, and I was a bit puzzled as to what to talk about today. So I thought, you know what? Why not? With all this talk about AI and all that good stuff going on in the industry at the moment, I thought, why not do a little bit of an experiment? So yeah, I asked ChatGPT some questions, or let's say I asked ChatGPT a particular question, and I thought, what sort of question shall I ask it? So I asked it, can you compare 5 movies to quality engineering and explain to me why you think they're relatable? Okay, so this isn't my opinion at all. This whole episode is going to be ChatGPT's opinion. But I'm actually quite interested because I've literally just done this before I've come on air, so I haven't actually looked through these. I've seen the film names, but I haven't looked through the reasoning why. So this could go horribly wrong, right? But that's okay, right? Because it's a little bit of fun. Just thought I'd bring a little bit of something different to the episode today. But first of all, before we get into anything, I just want to say a massive thank you, as always, to everybody that listens, watches, subscribes, comments, shares, likes. It really is amazing to see, because our numbers consistently keep going up. I think we're almost up to 370 subscribers on YouTube now, and that's jumped up by almost 20 subscribers in the last week or two. Now that might not seem a lot to many, but for us, that's a massive jump. So, things are really sort of trending up, and that's because of everybody that is obviously watching, but also sharing and spreading the word around. So thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it. And obviously we're dropping blog posts every week as well with content, and some of the content in the blogs are actually related to some of the episodes, and some of the episodes are related to the blog. So we're trying to connect everything together. This one, as I've said, is a little bit off the cuff, and it's a little bit different. There's no planning gone into this at all. So let's see how it goes. But as I say, it's going to be a bit of fun. So let's jump straight into it then. So, as I said, I asked ChatGPT, compare me 5 movies that are relatable to quality engineering, but then give me your reasoning why. Okay, so let's go into this with our eyes and ears and minds wide open. Okay, because this could get a little bit messy, or it could be really good. I have no idea, but it's going to be a bit of fun. But obviously, as we're going through these, have a think about: do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them? Are you kind of in the middle? And I'd be really interested, actually, off the back of this episode, for you to share some films that you think are really good, that are relatable to quality engineering and what we do as quality professionals in our roles and stuff like that. So let's get into it. Movie number 1 on the ChatGPT list: Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park. So I'm sure many people have seen Jurassic Park, whether it's the original series, whether it's the new series that came out, or even the latest one. Most people have probably seen or heard of Jurassic Park. Okay, so why did ChatGPT pick this? So it's saying that Jurassic Park represents the risks of building systems that are too complex to fully understand. Okay, yeah, makes sense. It argues that the failure of the park wasn't due to lack of testing, but due to the fact that the system itself had too many interacting parts, too many dependencies, too many unknowns, too many assumptions. And because of that, even with testing, failure was inevitable. Interesting. Okay. It goes on and it says, in quality engineering, there is often a false sense of confidence created by test coverage. I think we can all agree with that. That teams believe that they understand a system, when in reality, they only understand the scenarios they've tested. Again, I think that's a fair comment. So according to ChatGPT, good old chat, Jurassic Park is a metaphor for overconfidence in a complex system. Interesting. When you think about it, if you've seen the films, I mean, building a system around looking, actually sort of designing the dinosaurs from DNA initially, so all the science and technology that has to go into that, then thinking about how the system operates from a confinement perspective, and making sure that all the dinosaurs are confined and in their caged areas correctly, and the technology that goes into that, and then making sure that tourists are safe, and they've got the jeeps that go round on the rails and all this sort of stuff. There's a lot of connecting parts, right? So actually, I'm looking at this thinking, okay, maybe you're not too far off, right? But then the thing that gets me, actually, there is a quote in Jurassic Park, and I think it's by Jeff Goldblum, and he says, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So the scientists were so focused on the fact that they could, didn't mean that they thought about whether they actually should. Now, again, how often do we see that with technology? So just because we can do something, does it really mean that we should do something? I mean, again, question comes with AI and how we're potentially throwing AI at everything. Just because you can doesn't mean it should, and it doesn't mean it will work, right? So I think there's some stuff there. Okay, that's movie number one. Okay, I get you. I hear you, ChatGPT. I'm not completely sold, but I like your thinking. Okay, so let's go on to the next one then. So the next movie is The Matrix. So this is the original Matrix, not any of the ones that followed. So this is the original Matrix. Okay. And this is all around seeing reality versus illusion. Now, there'll be some people listening to this that are probably too young to have even seen The Matrix. But if you haven't, go and watch it, because it's a bloody good movie. And actually, the whole series is really good. I haven't seen the latest one, though. So if let me know what that's like, because I don't know whether to invest time or not. But anyway, let's see what good old chat said about The Matrix. So this one is all about perception. So the reasoning behind this. So in The Matrix, people believe that they are seeing reality. Yeah, that's true. But they're actually seeing a constructed version of it. And it drew a direct parallel to how we observe systems. So it points towards dashboards, monitoring tools, and metrics, and says that these are not the system itself. Okay, they are a representation of the system, or they're a representation of that's limited by what we choose to measure, how we measure it, and what we fail to capture. Okay, so its argument there is that quality professionals may be making decisions based on an incomplete or distorted view of reality, not just quality professionals, right? Sorry, ChatGPT. It's not just quality professionals that make quality decisions. Can I just stop you there? But anybody that's utilizing that data, those insights, those visuals, to think that maybe to try and grow confidence, coming back to what we were saying before, maybe actually it's giving you a distorted reality. Maybe the dashboard is incorrect. Maybe it's showing things that are green, but what does green really mean? It even goes on to suggest that a system appearing healthy in metrics, hello, I was just talking about that, does not guarantee it is behaving correctly for users. Okay, nice. I like it, chat. I like it. The matrix represents the illusion of visibility in modern systems. So, I'm a bit curious. I don't know about you guys. So I think, what do you think there? Do you trust your dashboards at what they're telling you? Maybe you do some of that. Maybe you don't. Maybe you need to plug yourself into the matrix to see really what's going on. But I think there's something that there's always that sort of feeling that there's something that you're not quite seeing. So I think that's where our curiosity comes in, right? So just because something's green, does it mean it's good? No, we know that. So you can't just rely on what your eyes are telling you. You have to go and dig under the hood a little bit and plug yourself into the matrix and understand exactly what's going on behind the scenes, and all the code and all that good stuff. And me and Stephen talked about that in the last episode, right? It's like once you're in a quality professional role, you can't not see quality. Like everything's quality, almost like in the Matrix, everything's code. So I think that's actually, I think there's some connections there. Yeah, 2 out of 2. I don't think it's too bad actually. I think it's doing quite okay here. Right, so let's move on to movie 3 then. Okay. All right. Okay. So movie 3. Again, some of these movies might be too old for some people that are listening to know, but you can go away and watch these films because they're really good films. So if nothing else, ChatGPT's got some good taste in movies. The third film then is Apollo 13. Okay, so that's obviously telling the story about Apollo 13 and the space travel that they did, and the trouble they hit and the failures they had, and then they had to sort of figure out how to fix the issues on the ship and all that sort of stuff. And sort of the tagline with this one is failure is an option, survival is the goal. Okay, not quite sure what this one means. So this third one then. So this one focuses on failure. Okay. So again, ChatGPT's reasoning. Here it is. Quality is often framed as preventing failure. It is. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we try and do. Yeah, that's what we're always trying to think about. How do we prevent it from happening? But in complex systems, failure is unavoidable. Again, we know that, right? We know that we can't prevent everything from happening, and anybody that thinks we can needs to have a rethink or speak to people that know better. So instead, the real measure of quality is how effective a team responds when things go wrong. Yeah, I like that. I do like that. So how often do we talk about you don't know how mature you are as a team or how mature your culture is from a quality perspective until something goes wrong. Okay, and then it's how you respond to that as a team that then actually determines how good and how mature you are. Okay, so yeah, like it. So it's highlighting. So in Apollo 13, it highlights there was no predefined solution to the problems that the astronauts faced. Okay, there was no perfect plan. There was no complete information. But what they did have was the ability to adapt. Okay, yeah, and yeah, we absolutely have to adapt in our roles as quality professionals, but also as teams, we have to adapt when something does go wrong. Okay, so what do we do as a team? How do we collectively solve this problem to achieve the goal that we're aiming for? And as in Apollo 13, the goal was survival. Now, I hope that in our teams we're never at the point where the goal is actually to survive. That would be quite worrying. But I think you can understand where it's coming from, right? So yeah, they had the ability to adapt. So they had the ability to collaborate. They had the ability to problem solve under pressure. Okay, nice. And it links that directly to modern engineering teams, kind of what I was just saying, especially when dealing with incidents. So the conclusion then it's drawn up with this is resilience is just as important as prevention. Absolutely, right? So we know that we can't prevent everything from happening, but how do we become resilient? How do our systems become resilient? How do the culture that we're building, that we work within, become resilient? How does the system that we work within become resilient? So not just our technical systems and applications, but the systems that we work within. How do we design them for resiliency? And possibly more important, have a think about this in your sense. So is the strategy is your quality strategy focused more on stopping failure or handling it when it happens, or do you have a good balance between both? So again, we think a lot about preventing failure, preventing bugs, preventing issues. Do we think enough about how do we respond, and are we set up for success to respond when an actual incident may occur. Now, that might be during the delivery cycle, or it may be once in production. Okay, so I'm quite liking ChatGPT here. Actually, I think it's coming up with some pretty thoughtful, insightful stuff. I'm quite impressed. I mean, as I said, this was a bit of an experiment. I had no idea. I'd seen the movies, but I hadn't seen the reasoning. So yeah, okay. I'm feeling quite confident here, right? So let's go with movie number 4. What's movie number 4? Okay, so this actually, I don't think I've seen this film, and it's an oldish film. It's got Brad Pitt in it. The film is Moneyball. Okay, so rethink, and the sort of the tagline that goes with this one is rethinking what matters. So anybody that's seen Moneyball, and I'm gonna watch this film now because I'm really interested in it, and I quite like Brad Pitt. So this one is all about metrics. Okay, so all about metrics. So it says here in Moneyball, traditional scouts valued things like how a player looked, how they swung. So Moneyball, this is all about baseball, by the way. So how the player looked, how they swung, I swung the bat, and their gut feel and experience. But what turned out in the film was that those didn't reliably predict wins. So when they're going through the draft process and drafting new players into the teams and so on, that's the kind of things that they were measuring. So I think this must be Brad Pitt's character. So Billy Bean is. I mean, if you've seen the film, you know more than me. I haven't seen this one, so this is quite interesting for me. So Billy Bean flipped the question, right? And how often do we have to flip questions? So he flipped the question from who looks like a great player to what actually leads to winning games. So I like that then. So if you think about, we've talked about things like the metrics that we measure, okay? And then flipping that script around. So it goes on to say here, so in quality engineering, we do the same sort of thing all the time, right? So we measure number of test cases, number of bugs, automation coverage, execution rates. So these are all activities. So we've talked about this before. So these are all activities, not outcomes. So in the sense of baseball, if the outcome you're trying to achieve is winning the baseball game, then you need to be tracking things that help you measure your ability to win a baseball game, right? And it's the same thing for us. So if we want to measure quality, we need to be tracking the things that allow us to measure quality. So those types of measures, as we've discussed before on earlier episodes, they tell us what we did. Okay, so they then don't tell us whether we've actually reduced risk or improved sort of the user experience or the overall quality of something that we're building. Okay. It goes on then to say many organizations measure quality using metrics that are easy to collect but not necessarily meaningful. So yeah. So I think this, so Moneyball represents the shift from traditional metrics to meaningful outcome driven measurements. And it goes, chat goes on to say the movie makes a pretty strong claim here that teams optimizing the wrong metrics may believe they are improving quality when they're not. So I mean, I'm going to go away and watch this film, I think, because I'm really intrigued now by this particular film. I've not actually seen it. So I've heard it is a really good film though. But I think that's something that we can all get behind, right? So, think about what you're measuring. We talked about this before, are we measuring the right things in quality today? Are we measuring the things that allow us to understand, are we moving towards achieving the outcome that we want to achieve? Okay. So, or are we just measuring those vanity metrics, how the player looks, how the player swings, or how many tests do we have, how many pass rates, how many execution numbers, all those vanity metrics. they're not the things that we need to be measuring, right? We need to be measuring the things that actually mean something to allow us to deliver the outcome that we really want to do. And obviously, when we think about quality, what that looks like. As I said, I think we're 4 movies in. We've got 1 more movie to go, and I think this has been pretty successful so far. Not a bad experiment. Let's see what we've got for the last one. Let's see what we've got. So, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love this film. So, Batman the Dark Knight. Batman the Dark Knight. This is such a great film. And the tagline that goes along with this is chaos versus control. Anybody that's seen The Dark Knight will know Heath Ledger is incredible in this film. It's a shame that he passed when he did, but he's such an incredible actor. So let me read through why has ChatGPT chosen this movie and given it that tagline. So this one focuses on unpredictability. Now, I wonder where we could be going with this if you've seen this film. So the reasoning is most systems are tested against expected behavior. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. So we have defined scenarios, we have known use cases, we have sets of requirements that we think should be happening. These are the things that we want to see, and so when we test, generally we will test more so against that. But we know, right, that real users don't always behave that way, right? So that's where we get more into exploratory testing and all these other essence. And then you think about, people trying to do malicious things to the software that you build, and the applications that you run in your production environments and things like that. So this is where so this is where it's using the Joker and the role of Heath Ledger, as I mentioned before, as a metaphor. So the Joker, so unpredictable inputs, right? So the Joker he's crazy, right? In the film, if you've seen him, he just does things that you can't predict. You think he's going to do one thing, he does something the opposite, that kind of thing. So unpredictable inputs, right? Malicious intent, absolutely. The Joker that guy is malicious. And if you've seen any of the Batman films in any of the different movie franchises, then you'll know the Joker he's a great character, but he's a nasty bit of stuff, right? He's very malicious. And then unexpected behavior. Okay, so he's off his head basically. So you don't know how he's going to behave from one moment to the next. So okay, I like the Joker metaphor here. That's pretty cool. And so it goes on then to say a system cannot be considered fully tested until it has been exposed to those kind of things. Okay, yeah. It also connected this to areas like security testing, abuse cases. I don't know what abuse cases are. Is that a term that has anybody ever heard that before? Abuse cases? If you have, let me know. I'm guessing they're like unhappy path things, maybe, even though I don't like that phrase. Abuse cases, that's a new one. Edge case exploration, trying to do things that are unnatural in terms of like the expected behavior, right? These things are doing things like Batman had no chance with the Joker at times because he just didn't, he couldn't figure out what he was going to do next. So it then goes on to say in its words, i.e. ChatGPT's words, the Dark Knight represents the role of chaos and unpredictability in system behavior. Okay, do you know what? I think it's fair. I think that's a fair comparison. I mean, some of these things might be a little bit of a stretch, right? But this is a bit of fun. But I can see some stuff there. I can see some things coming out there. But it does again. It raises another question, right? So when we think about our systems and our applications, are we testing for what we think should happen? Are we also testing for what we think could happen? Yeah. So are we making some assumptions, and what are the things that we know to be true versus what are the things that we maybe don't know, right? And again, because we talked about asking different questions early on in the in the life cycle of building and designing any new feature, product, whatever that looks like. This is kind of where this is going. So that's 5 films like that, just like all connected in some way. And I think it's done a pretty good job. I think this experiment has been quite a fairly decent success. I'd say some of it might be a little bit, rough around the edges and stuff. You might have to open your mind up quite a bit to accept some of them. But that's 5 films. That's 5 metaphors. And some pretty decent perspectives on quality engineering, right? So we had Jurassic Park, which was focused on complexity and overconfidence. Okay, we had The Matrix, which was illusion of the illusion of visibility, i.e., illusion over reality. We had Apollo 13, which was resilience in failure. That was a cool one, I have to say. Moneyball, meaningful metrics. We've talked a lot about meaningful metrics or vanity metrics, right? And making sure your metrics are meaningful. And then Batman: The Dark Knight, unpredictability and chaos, all thanks to the Joker. It predominantly. I mean, Batman can go off the rails himself. To be fair, he can just be a little bit crazy at times as well. So. Again, all right, this isn't my list. This is with help of AI and chat, but I think it's driven quite a good conversation for this episode, if I'm honest. I might have to do this again. So now it's over to you guys, right? So do you agree with these? Do you think that there's some weight and some credibility in each of these films that it's come up with, or do you completely disagree? Are you kind of in the middle? Is there something there you think, yeah, that's a stretch, Stu? Come on, man, don't be stupid. But I'm actually more interested to know what films you would choose. Okay, so off the back of this episode, please just comment and drop films that you think connect into the world of quality engineering, because I'd be really keen, and maybe we'll do another one of these with with the community ideas, and we can talk through them. I think that would be really cool, and maybe we'll do more of these types of things. Like, actually, if you've got different themes, like this was movies, is there another theme or different themes that you might be interested in as well? But yeah, share your films, right? I think it would be quite cool, right? Share your films. Maybe this can become a series that we do. Not all about films, just different relatable themes that we can come up with. I don't really want to be doing it all with ChatGPT because I don't want to have that sort of relationship with it. If I'm honest, I'll embrace it and use it when I need to, but I don't want it dictating to me what I do shows on. And when Chris comes back, then I'll be having conversations with him. Hopefully that'll be soon. But anyway, I'm going to stop chatting now because this is a bite-sized episode. We're almost done. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you've had, it's been a bit of fun. It's been a bit of an experiment, trying something new, which is always cool. Adding a little bit of a squiggle, as Luke says, two things to spice things up. Keep your minds open to these things, and obviously these are sort of ways of storytelling as well, right? So you can use these types of things to help other people relate in the future to quality when you're having conversations. But that's it. I'm gonna kill it there. So hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you take some value away from it. I hope you've had a bit of a laugh maybe along the way as well. Drop your thoughts, drop your comments, subscribe. Let us know what movies you like. Let us know if you want any more of these types of episodes where we do themes, relatable themes to quality engineering. But more importantly, join us next time on another episode of the Quality Talks podcast. Take care for now.